Hello and welcome back to the Cutting Room Floor, the show where your favorite creator, me hopefully, sits down and gets to talk about some fantastic projects. And today I'm talking about the best horror movie I've seen this year. I'm talking about Obsession. Let's get right into it. Okay, before I start, if you've not seen Obsession, go see it, go watch it. It's awesome. I am gonna try and do something a little different than I usually do. I'm going to try and keep this review as spoiler free as possible because I think it was so good and I generally think that you should go check it out. Because even if I spoil everything, my review and my spoiling of it won't do it justice. It is so good and you need to see it in theaters. Obviously, you can tell I loved it. So Obsession follows two characters, but it focuses on like four. Really the only characters you need to know. So we have Bear, who is our main character who we follow. We have Nikki, who is Bear's love interest. We have Sarah, Nikki's best friend, and Ian, Bear's best friend. So they're a group of four. They all went to high school together. They work at a music store together, and they do trivia together. So our film opens up, and we are immediately told Bear has this obsession with Nikki. It's painted as a crush, but when you sit down and you step back and look at it, it's less so a crush and more so an obsession with who she is. And again, going and checking it out, it'll make sense because he talks about what she does for him and how she makes him feel. But there's no like connection there, if that makes sense. But Bear is pouring his heart out and giving this big confession, and then it stops and it's revealed that they're in a diner and Bear is practicing his confession on their waitress, and Ian's like, no, that was terrible, like that was creepy, that was weird. And Bear's like, I know. It's like, okay, so you know, like it's creepy and weird the way that you want to explain it to her. And he's like, I'm gonna do it tonight. And he goes, and Ian gives probably one of my favorite lines, and it's, oh fuck, and I don't know it right now, but it's again, it's like Bear wants to do during trivia. He wants to tell Nikki during trivia, and Ian's like, hell no, I wake up rock hard for trivia, like. Just love it. And Ian is played by Cooper Tomlinson, who is Curry Barker, the director, his best friend and his, what would you call him? Partner on their YouTube channel, That's a Bad Idea, which awesome. They make Key and Peele style comedy sketches. Really good, really good. Also would recommend those. So he's cast as Curry Barker is the one who wrote, directed, and edited Obsession, which is super cool. But we go from there and we get to the next scene where Bear goes home, and immediately we get another peek into Bear's inner personality because he walks in the door and his cat Sandy is dead because she's gone into his grandmother's pills and overdosed and died. And the immediate thought is, oh my god, that's horrible. And then if you actually sit there and think for a moment, it goes, but why were the pills just out? Like, they have a child safe cap for a reason. A cat can't open that, so why did Bear just leave them out? And that gives another piece of insight into Bear as a character, where he's very careless and neglectful with his life, and he doesn't really care about a lot of the people around him. Again, I don't want to go too in depth with it. I want to go scene by scene because it's still in theaters, and I think you should absolutely go check it out. And not just because it's been breaking records, but because I think it's just such a fantastic film. But we follow Bear on this little journey, and he goes to the shop to get a necklace because Nikki has lost her crystal necklace. But he doesn't know enough about her to buy one. So what does he do? Instead, he buys the One Wish Willow. And that's really where things are set up. He goes and drives Nikki home from the trivia bar that night. And while they're driving, they're having conversations. and Bear is being weird. Take this from a guy who's been kind of in that position where you have a crush, but you don't know if you should say it, but you're just hanging out with that person, and you've gotten to this point where you want to tell them, but you don't know, and so every interaction's a little bit awkward. You take everything they say with an extra something there, an extra layer to it. You don't know if they're just being friendly or if they're trying to give you hints, and you don't know if they're trying to drop hints that they don't like you when they say stuff. Because Bear goes, "Nikki, I have a gift for you," and she goes, "Ew, why does that scare me?" And I think his reaction is so good, and it's so realistic I don't know, that's a weird way to respond to that. Because it is, but it's also a natural way to respond to it. Because we find out later that Nikki views Bear as a brother. But she also kind of has hints that he might like her as more than just a friend. And so that reaction, knowing that information, makes complete sense. And from there we go, and we are learning more and seeing more. And so they're driving, and they're weird. Bear is weird. Nikki is just so, like, calm and regular, and, like, not being weird about it. And Bear is just not giving her an inch. Okay? And I just have to say this right now. Indy Neverett killed it. She was incredible. I watch a lot of movies. I try to watch a lot of movies. Easily, she is the best performance I've seen this year. In recent memory, I cannot think of someone who scared the crap out of me as much as that. And I've talked about this before. A little side note. My issue with seeing horror movies, especially in theaters, is because so many of these movies recently go with a simple, "I'm gonna scare you because I jump scare you." And I hate that, especially in theaters, because sound mixing is somewhat a lost art. And so when you have a jump scare and the volume is at 14, I'm jumping and I'm getting scared, not because he actually earned the scare and got me, because my body's natural reaction is to jump and be scared to what happened. And I hate that. I think it's a cheap trick. But what they do in this film, fantastic. Because I have as soon as the wish happens, this pit formed. And the longer I watched, the bigger the pit grew. And that sinking feeling that you have when something is off and you don't know what's gonna happen, just kept growing. It was just so much there. And that is what I would say is a fantastic sign of a good horror film. Because it gives you that growing, sinking feeling without the boo jump scares. So I'd have to say that is in part to Curry's writing and directing, but also the performance from Indy. So incredible. Now it's back to it. And she goes in the car, "Bear, do you like me?" Just straight to the point. Gives him an opening. So what should he do? He should tell her. He's decided he wants to tell her that night because she's told him that she is quitting her job. That's why she's decided he's doing that night. But instead of telling her, he goes, "What? No, as a friend." Then she leaves. She's given you this opening to confess. But you don't say it. Why? Because this is a running theme. Bear's a coward. Bear is a coward. And if I was doing a full spoiler review, it would be so clear, it'd be painted on so well. But I'm not going to do that because I genuinely want you to see it. But she leaves. And Bear goes, "Ugh," and pulls out the One Wish Willow. And instead of wishing for, I don't know, "I wish I was the man that Nikki loved," or "I wish I could be more confident and tell Nikki how I feel," or any number of other wishes, or even things that are about his own failings, because she gave him the opening you can't really tell in that part if maybe she would be open to it if he would tell her. And you'll never know because he doesn't. And so instead of doing anything that would have been, I would think, a somewhat reasonable wish to say, I wish I was the type of guy that Nikki liked, or I wish I had the confidence to tell Nikki I liked her. He goes, I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone else in the entire world. Instantly, she's being weird. And things spiral from there. There's a couple of theories I've seen floating around the internet of what happens, and going into it, I was spoiled a tiny bit. Not too much, so I was really, really happy. But going into it, I had seen some theories of, and the big prominent one I was seeing was Nikki was possessed by the Wish entity. And that one, it was pretty much saying that when he makes a wish, this entity, this, like you could say, demon takes over Nikki, and that's causing her to act that way. Other ones are, well, it's just a false, it's just a false sense of Nikki, and there's cracks to it because that's not how Nikki truly feels. Or a weird one, which is Bear's cat Sandy possesses Nikki. But the one I think is true, or at least the one that I like the most after seeing it, is that Nikki isn't possessed by any entity. Nikki is possessed by Bear's version of her, because he's the one who makes the wish, and he's obsessed with her. So in his mind, her being in love with him is how she is being obsessed with him, and that's why she acts the way she does, because that's how Bear views her, and not as a person, not as a loving girlfriend, but as an object that's infatuated with him. That is part of the issue. And so while obsession, yes, talks about and can be applied to Nikki's behavior when she's wished Nikki, I don't think that's entirely the truth. I think that obsession also applies, and more so applies, to Bear, and the fact that he's obsessed with Nikki. From there, we have some building of the stakes. Nikki stays over at Bear's. She gives him a lie. They act weird, and we have our first real Nikki jumps out, and they start to kiss, and then she screams because she doesn't want to kiss Bear. And Bear's just chalking this up, so she's being weird. And up until this point, you could still say that Bear isn't the bad guy for what he's doing. You could make the argument that she's acting weird and he doesn't really know why. And he's believing what she's saying, hook, line, and sinker. She says, my dad's really sick. And yeah, sure, that's why you're acting a little weird. They show up to the work next day and they come in together, and he's like, do you guys spend the night together? And Bear's like, yeah. And tells him, like, she's really like messed up about her dad. And Ian's like, she doesn't care about her dad. And that's another point to the obsession thing, because you're like, Bear's like in love with this girl, but he doesn't know the first thing about her relationship with her dad? Really? And it just goes from there, where you learn more and more that Bear knows like next to nothing. And Ian's like, no, like, she's probably on drugs again. He talks to her and she goes, yeah, like I'm on MDMA, Molly. And it's just all these different pieces. And Bear never once stops for a second and goes, okay, but this is weird. Like, Ian's telling me this, like, XYZ, nothing. And so Nikki shows up, and the lighting in this scene, but in many of the scenes, holy shit. Incredible. Paired with the performance, insane job. It is so good, and it is so captivating, and it keeps you in. And I just like the line delivery is so well done in this scene. It's the, yeah, well, Ian told me like I was on drugs, and I don't want you to think you were taking advantage of me. I didn't think he was taking advantage of you. Yeah, I know. That's what I said. I like just back and forth, just perfect. And then we get to the dinner scene. And so we've had like a little montage of them being a happy couple, but Nikki being a little odd. Then we get to this dinner scene, and they're sitting there, and they're flirting a little bit. And I've seen this come up a lot, where it's like, this is what it would have been like. This is probably like a real Nikki scene. It's like, no, it's not. We learned that Nikki doesn't view him that way. This is clearly Wish Nikki just not being outwardly weird, but also she hasn't been outwardly weird up until this point. So we're sitting there, and they're having a good conversation, and then Ian calls, and then Ian calls again. So Bear's like, I have to take this. Like, he never calls me. Like, he never calls me twice. Goes and picks up the phone, and you see Nikki being a little weird in the background. And Ian's like, hey, like, I reached out, like, her dad's not sick, and they have not spoken. Like, I don't know what's going on with her, but like, this is weird. Because you take your friend at face value. Is Bear a weirdo? Yes. Is Ian gonna immediately doubt what he's saying? No. If they're best friends, he is gonna think, this is weird. I know that Nikki doesn't like you. Maybe something else is going on, and that's a little weird for like Nikki. Maybe something not great is going on with her. And not saying that she's doing anything out to get anything bad or hurt you, but maybe there's something else. That's where a lot of the characters come from. Nikki's acting out a character, not Bear. And that was another comment I was seeing online when I got out of it, and now my feed was full of obsession stuff. Was, of course, they're always going to be downing Nikki and not Bear for being like weird, but it's like, but you have to look at it from their perspective. Okay, sit yourself in like Ian's or in Sarah's perspective, or even just an outside person in that friend group. If I know the vibes of everybody, Nikki's this way, Ian's this way, Bear is this way, and then one day Nikki's acting completely different, but Bear's acting the same. Am I gonna immediately say, Bear, what the fuck did you do? No. I'm gonna say, what's going on with Nikki? And if Nikki's going directly against something that I've been informed of, like I think of Bear as a brother, yeah, I'm gonna think, hey, something weird's going on. I would still doubt a little bit of Bear and go, this is just a little bit weird. But I get the being worried about Bear. I mean, I don't know what Nick's intentions are. And so you get one of my favorite scenes. And I have so many. But Bear goes back to the table, sits down, and he goes, Nikki, why did you tell me that about your dad? It's not true. And you think she's gonna give a creepy response, and she does, but in an even better way than you could have guessed. She goes, no, don't do that. I thought we were having a nice date. Stands up in a restaurant, and you get the strongest taste of secondhand embarrassment. Oh, I wanted to hide behind my chair. That was incredible. So good. Literally such a good scene. Just, I loved it. Straight up loved it. It's such a great job, for one, showing how weird Wish Nikki is and how she reacts when Bear calls her out on something. But also, we see that Bear immediately cowered. No, it's fine. We are having a nice day. It's okay, sit down. And then move on. And if you thought that Bear wasn't a villain up to this point, if you thought he was, for some reason, a victim to it, this is probably one of the most slap in your face demonstrations of he's not the good guy. He's not the victim. He's not the victim of an unwitting genie wish, where something's happened and it's out of his control, and he's trying to figure out how to fix it. Because we go from there to immediately cut to Bear having sex with Nikki, while Nikki is looking blankly at the camera. And for someone who's just discovered that the girl of your dreams has no autonomy and is doing this purely because you wished for it, kind of fucked to do that. And that's as far as I want to go. I want to go into it deeper, but I also want you to see it. Things get more and more fucked, and the cracks in how Nikki is not a real person. And the one point I will jump to, which is just after a party scene, where Bear goes, I want you to be Nikki. And she goes, I can't be Nikki. Because Bear doesn't know Nikki. Bear's just obsessed with the idea of Nikki. And I think that really encapsulates Bear as a character, Nikki as a thought in his mind. And you see that Nikki, while is the antagonist and the one that's, directly doing all the bad things, is a victim of Bear's actions. And it's really sad when you get to the end of it. And this is the only spoilers I'm going to give for anything else. So if you want to skip spoilers, skip ahead. But if you're okay with it, then stick around. Bear is a coward. And Bear is also a cancer on his group. Because directly, because of Bear's cowardice and his actions, he ruins his 3 closest friends' lives right when they're about to step into what their lives are going to be, like the next step. Nikki's quitting her job to become a writer, and Bear takes her autonomy away and causes her to do all these horrific things that is going to take her freedom away. Sarah, which I didn't really talk about, was applying to art school, waiting to hear back and get in. Her last chance school shows up, and she dies right before Bear can open the letter, which is an acceptance letter because she got in. Ian, while not directly having this clear dream he's moving towards, wishes for $1 billion and then dies before he gets a chance to use any of it, because he's coming to Bear's rescue, to tell Bear any of that. And the person at the center of all this is Bear, because he's wished for it, and this is exactly what he asked for. And Bear faces no consequences, because he is a coward, and he's told multiple times, if you want to end the wish, you need to kill yourself or kill her. She begs him to kill her, but he doesn't. And so he goes, this is too weird, too crazy, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna kill myself and leave Nikki to deal with the consequences of my actions. But he can't shoot himself with the gun. So he takes the pills and he overdoses, mirroring Sandy. But he can't do that either. Because at his core, Bear is a coward. So at the last second, he goes to try and throw up the pills. The only reason he doesn't is because Nikki breaks the one wish willow and makes a wish. And Bear dies because he doesn't throw it up. But he is only able to kill himself and overdose because of someone else's actions, not his own. So that's why Bear is the villain. And Bear is the bad guy in this film. And while yes, he's the protagonist because he's the one you follow, and Nikki is the antagonist because she's the one coming into the story, it's right off the bat clear that Bear is not meant to be someone you root for or side with. And it's obsession. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of The Cutting Room Floor. I hope you really enjoyed it. I saw this like 2 weeks ago, and I was right in the middle of going through the Oaklooks 48 film shorts, and I was so close to leaving it, and like either just pushing until after I've talked about all of them. And this week I kind of sat down and I went, no. I was going to talk about Frisbee today, and I went, no, I want to talk about Obsession because I love the film so much. I want to talk about it. I want to get the video out. I want to be able to share my thoughts. So here I am. I also did not want to do a full spoiler review because if it was out of theaters, I'd be more willing to, but because it's still in theaters, I really, really do encourage you to go check it out. For many reasons, it is a good unsettling horror film. I also think it's so important to not just support movies in theaters, but also break out new talents in Hollywood. And Corey Barker is one of those. He is incredible, and he is someone I'm going to be seeing every single film. His next film, Anything But Ghosts, I will be there day one. Okay, I may necessarily not be there day one on Obsession. I will not make the mistake again. He is incredible, and I think it's so important to support these talents because it also shows Hollywood, and hopefully they learn from this, that there's so much talent on the internet. And that's what I've been seeing when I watch these different short films that I find on YouTube or Obsession. It's this YouTube talent. It's this talent that's been putting their creations on the internet for anybody to see. So go to the theaters, watch Obsession, and come back here and let me know what you thought. Thank you to all my patrons. Your name is shown by here. There are so many of you. You guys blow me away every single time. I do don't think severely is the right word. I sincerely appreciate all of you. So thank you so much. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. Drop a like, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of The Cutting Room Floor next week. Goodbye.